Picture yourself barefoot in wet grass at first light. 20 paces ahead, an antelope lies dead. You didn't kill it. The thing that did is still in the scrub to your left, close enough that you can smell it. Your kids haven't eaten in 2 days. The carcass is still warm. There's only one thing to decide this morning. Do you go get it? If you'd been born 50,000 years ago, you're already moving. You go fast, grab what your arms can hold, and run. That's survival rule number one, and our species ran on it for so long you can still read it in the bones. Now do the same thing today. Pull over on a highway, cut the meat off an animal, drive it home to feed your family. In much of the United States, you've just committed a crime. That's the thread running through this whole story. Nearly every rule that kept your ancestors breathing has been turned into something you can be charged for. 10 rules, 10 crimes. And here's the part almost nobody notices. They weren't banned because we decided they were evil. They became illegal for a completely different reason. And once you understand it, this stops being a story about cavemen and becomes a story about you. We used to tell a heroic version of the early human, brave hunters bringing down something enormous. Then researchers looked at the butchered bones and the flattering story fell apart. On some bones, predator tooth marks sit underneath the human cut marks. A carnivore ate first and people took the leftovers. It wasn't one behavior, it was a switch. Hunt when hunting pays, steal when stealing is cheaper. Let a predator do the dangerous part and bank the calories without risking your life. That precise behavior is now illegal across much of the world. In the US, claiming a dead animal depends entirely on which state line you're standing behind. Many require a permit, some ban it outright, and selling the meat is serious criminal territory almost everywhere. The most dependable way our ancestors got protein now comes with paperwork. Ice Age foragers had no permit, no season, no bag limit. If it had meat on it and you could get close, it was food. Mammoth, cave bear, aurochs, eggs pulled straight out of nests. And when the moment was big enough, they took the whole herd. At Solutré in France, wild horse bones stacked up in staggering numbers, one bottleneck feeding a camp for weeks. That wasn't reckless. Without refrigeration, the rule was simple. Take it when you see it, because you may never see it again. Today, hunting without a license is a crime nearly everywhere. Out of season, another. Over your limit, another. And here's the detail that drops jaws. Under U.S. law, it's illegal to merely possess the feathers or eggs of most wild birds. A feather you found on the ground can technically make you an offender. If digging up the buried instructions of early humans is your thing, subscribe now. The next rule is where this stops being about food and starts being about the body. You take a blow to the head. Blood is pooling inside your skull, the pressure keeps climbing, and everyone watching has one move. Someone opens your head. It's called trepanation, and archaeologists have found hundreds of skulls with holes deliberately cut into them, thousands of years back into the Stone Age, using stone tools with no anesthetic and no idea germs existed. And here's the flip. The bone around many of those holes shows healing, smooth remodeled edges. That doesn't happen to a corpse. These people survived, often, sometimes twice. Neurosurgeons still relieve pressure inside the skull on the same principle today. Try it yourself now and there's no defense. Practicing medicine without a license, aggravated assault. If they die, homicide. The one act that might save a life in that camp is one you'd be arrested for attempting. The flaw in hunting with a sharpened stick. Unless you hit something vital, the animal runs. Early humans solved it with chemistry. They coated their weapons in poison. In Border Cave in South Africa, researchers found a poison applicator roughly 24,000 years old. Poison makes depth irrelevant. You no longer need a kill shot, just a scratch that carries something into the blood. Knowing which plant, which insect, how much, and how to handle it without poisoning yourself, that's applied science passed down by voice for thousands of years. Poisoned weapons are now banned from hunting across the developed world, and the second a human enters the picture, the charge becomes attempted murder. Early humans didn't just carry fire, they aimed it at whole landscapes. Set the grassland alight and animals flee in the direction you chose, straight toward your hunters. Then the burned ground grows back green and pulls grazers in for years. You're ranching meat without owning a single animal. Aboriginal Australians have done this so precisely that fire authorities today study those methods to control modern wildfires. Start an unauthorized fire now and it's arson, decades in prison if it spreads. And there's a bill for that. Pull small fires out of a landscape and the fuel piles up until it all burns at once, on its terms instead of yours. That's 5 rules of technique. From here, they stop being about what these people knew and start being about who they were willing to be. Our walled garden childhood is startlingly new. Among the Hadza in Tanzania, children head out and gather food, carrying small versions of adult tools, and a real share of what a child eats is food that child collected personally. It isn't play, it's training with a deadline, because a bad hunter grows into a hungry adult. The classroom is the camp. Hand a young child a knife and send them out for dinner today and you're a case number, child endangerment, neglect. The uncomfortable part? Those kids read tracts and handle blades without cutting themselves. We didn't ban that competence because it was worthless. We banned the method that produced it. 9,000 years ago at Çatalhöyük in Turkey, people buried their dead inside their homes, under the floors, sometimes right beneath where the living slept. Some graves were reopened and skulls kept. At nearby sites, faces were rebuilt in plaster over the actual bone. In a world with no documents, the bones in the floor were the proof of who you were. Put a body under your floorboards today and you're facing charges for unlawful disposal of remains. The irony, the archaeologists who lift those bodies out need government licenses to do it. The dead a Stone Age family kept under the bed are now protected by more paperwork than the house. In Gough's Cave in England from about 14,000 years ago came human bones with stone tool cut marks, long bones cracked open for marrow and skulls carefully shaped into bowls. Look at the work. This isn't panic, it's skilled hands following steps in order. Starvation explains the marrow. It doesn't explain spending hours shaping a skull into a smooth-rimmed cup. That's ritual, and these were faces they knew. Today there's no version of this that isn't a crime, desecration of a corpse, and if the death was arranged, murder. The food's gone, the camp has to move, and someone can't. There's no clean answer, and in genuine Arctic famine the choice sometimes went the way you fear, but the evidence mostly points the other way. Shanidar I, a Neanderthal from Iraq, had a withered arm and was likely blind on one side, and his bones healed. He lived years like that. Someone fed him, someone moved at his pace. In the harshest conditions our species ever faced, hunter-gatherers regularly chose to carry the people who couldn't carry themselves, a decision made over and over by people who could count. Today, abandoning someone in your care is a crime with a name. We had to write it into law. They did it without one. Small bands had no jail and no chief with power over life and death. Mostly shame and avoidance were enough. But the anthropologist Richard Lee documented a Kalahari man who had killed twice, and when the group finally acted, people drove a spear into the body one after another. If everyone strikes, no single person is the killer and no feud can start. That's a justice system built by people who understood exactly what an unresolved killing does to a group that has to keep living together. Do it today and it's conspiracy to murder. Every participant charged. We call it a lynching, and we built institutions to make sure it never happens again. 10 rules. Everyone worked. Everyone is now a crime. Why? Not because we became better people, because we stopped needing them. Scavenging solves no refrigeration. Skull surgery solves no hospital. Poison solves no rifle. Working children solve no farming surplus. Burying your dead at home solves no records. Group execution solves no police. Every rule is an answer to a shortage. Remove the shortage and the rule stops being wisdom and becomes a danger. That's what a law usually is. The fossil of a problem we finally solved. Which means these rules didn't vanish. They're one bad week away, inside every one of us. When the power's out for 4 days, people stop treating property the way they did on day one. Nobody has to be taught these rules. They're what people arrive at the moment the safety net disappears. The laws are the newer layer, the part that has to be written down and enforced. You're carrying the proof. Your body stores fat because your ancestors couldn't count on tomorrow's meal. You feel a pull to share food with the people you love because sharing meat was the insurance policy that carried foragers through failed hunts. You're not a modern person who knows some history. You're a Stone Age animal running survival software that hasn't updated in 50,000 years. That's what these 10 rules really are, not savagery. The operating manual your body still reads when the lights go out. And the only reason anyone could write those laws is that your ancestors broke every one of them first.